Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. I am joined by none other than the great OJ. OJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your channel. It's going to be exciting seeing all of these balance changes.
Yeah, dude, I woke up this morning. I knew they were coming today. We kind of got the heads up last night. I felt like on social media was blowing up that there might be balance changes again in Clash Royale, and indeed there were. And yeah, it's very interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these balance changes. Of course, as always, you'll be releasing your balance change kind of in-depth interaction video later tonight, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say in about 7 hours or so.
Okay, cool. So probably in about 5 hours from when you're watching this. So make sure you subscribe and tune into OJ. But OJ, what were your first thoughts when seeing these changes? You guys can see them on the screen right now. It's really quickly a nerf to Mega Knight, Skeleton Barrel, Knight, Inferno Dragon, basically that most hated deck, and Valkyrie, Bandit, Dark Prince get a buff. Actually, let's start with Magic Archer. It looks like Magic Archer is going to be the new card entering the game. It's a 4-cost legendary card. That's all we kind of know about it so far. Any thoughts on them adding another legendary card to the game?
I think it's good because it's at a good state where legendaries are a lot easier to obtain than they were 2 years ago, for real. Like, adding that legendary means that the super magical chests that you get, you can't buy in the shop anymore, but you can still get a super magical from like your regular chest cycle or from the quests. And at 14 legendaries, there's in the highest arena, you get, it's an 82% chance to unlock a legendary. With the Magic Archer coming out, that chest is going to offer an 87% chance to unlock a legendary now. So I think that's pretty cool.
You know, that's a good point. I was actually anticipating you to say something negative, so I'm surprised you said something positive, but I'm also, you know, that makes me a little bit more optimistic about it because it feels like, you know, not only as a player, but also as a content creator, oftentimes when they come out with a new legendary card, it's like, oh, great, no one's going to be able to play it for a long time, you know, like I can't include it in any decks. So that was the case with the Royal Ghost most recently. However, you do bring up a good point. It's much easier to get legendary cards now. Me personally, though, I'm a little bit weary of the fact that, because we kind of see things through our own lens, I guess, OJ, and I play mostly ladder. So I immediately think of ladder, and I immediately think, oh, great, another card that's going to take forever for people to level up, especially free-to-play players. Like, I'll see it in 4 years, and another legendary card. But that's why I've always been kind of calling for a new game mode that's not so level-dependent. But I guess you're right. In terms of tournament-level standard, unlocking him shouldn't be a big issue. Do you have any thoughts on the card itself? I know, you know, it's tough to talk about knowing that we know a little bit about it, but any thoughts on the card? For a cost elixir card, seems to be like maybe a ranged unit.
Before we talk about that, it's funny how you mentioned ladder. I actually don't play ladder because my legendary is only level 1, level 2, level 3, because I'll unlock it from the challenge, but that's going to be it. So that's why I really only play grand challenges. And I guess we have like different perspectives on that. Like, it's like I'm never gonna get that level 5 Magic Archer, so I'm never gonna play it on ladder.
See, we're switching lanes, man. We're going right by each other. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So what do I think it's gonna do? It's hard to speculate just by what it looks like, but it looks like an ice wizard with a bow and arrow. So is it gonna be like an archer that has a frost arrow that slows units? Because if it slows units, that's gonna be consistent with the entire game's mechanics, where it's going to slow units by 35%, just like the Ice Wizard, just like the Ice Golem's Frost Nova. So if it does freeze units, that's what it's going to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's going to be another range unit at 4 elixir. You know, we just got Hunter at 4 elixir. We have Executioner obviously at 5 elixir, but you know, like another option in that kind of, it looks like that sort of option for a ranged character in the game. But anyway, we don't know much about it, so let's move on to the actual balance changes. What are your thoughts on the nerfs? Mega Knight, Skeleton Barrel, Knight, and Inferno Dragon.
I think it was really well needed, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with that too, because that combination is in every single deck. Mega Knight, Skeleton Barrel, Inferno Dragon. With the bats, it's basically half of the decks that we see in the meta right now. It's either a bait deck or a beatdown deck, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was not surprised by Inferno Dragon, Skeleton Barrel, and Mega Knight at all. I was a little surprised on Knight. You know, we'll talk more about the Skeleton Barrel as well in Mega Knight and Inferno Dragon. But what do you think about Knight? I'm kind of surprised that he got another nerf here.
It looks like he got a 6% health nerf. That's really subtle. I mean, he was used a lot, but he wasn't obnoxious. Maybe he had a high use rate. That interaction is kind of interesting. It's not going to change much. Maybe like a baby dragon, a skeleton, like literally every unit in the game is going to kill it one shot faster now. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, okay. So you're kind of a little bit befuddled too, but it's definitely, you know, I don't know.
Well, I don't agree with it, but I don't disagree with it. It caught me off guard.
I got you. Me too. You're kind of indifferent on it, like I am. What do you think about the skeleton barrel nerf? The decision to nerf the skeleton barrel by changing the skeleton count from 8 to 6. How do you feel about that?
I think that the skeleton barrel deserved a nerf, but not a death damage removal, because it was just not usable before that. But bringing it down from 8 to 6 is absurd, because if you look at the graveyard and one skeleton is not there or two skeletons is not there, that can result in like 500 to 1,000 damage. So a skeleton barrel left ignored now is going to deal like almost no damage at all if it's not supported with a miner, if it's not supported with an ice golem. It's a huge nerf, a very, very huge nerf. On paper, it's 8 to 6, but if you look at the numbers of the actual damage on the tower, it's going to be massive. So wow. I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, that's a really good way to put it, because again, you know, when I first saw it, I actually thought opposite of you. I thought that it wasn't that big of a nerf, and the reason I thought that, I mean, everything that you said makes perfect sense, but the reason that I initially thought that it wasn't a huge nerf is because I think that the point of the card still, or the purpose of the card, the use of the card still kind of serves its purpose, which is, you know, bait out a zap in most cases in the deck that it was most notorious in, because you're still going to have to answer it, like you said, if they have anything else going down in the lane. But I didn't think about just the impact that two skeletons might have in terms of overall damage. Like right now, you're right. You do have to respond to a solo skeleton barrel. So you're saying that after this balance change, you might be able to just ignore the skeleton barrel and take very minimal damage, you think?
Well, the skeleton barrel right now deals 1,500 damage, and after the balance update, it's going to deal a lot less than that. But that's a really interesting point, because I'm looking at the micro interactions, whereas you're talking about the macro interactions, the bigger picture of things. So I think it's a big nerf, but it's also not that big of a nerf, depending on your macro play.
You know what? That kind of encompasses us as creators right there. Like, you know everything about micro interactions, and I know nothing. And I just look at things like kind of big picture. Mega Knight, spawn and jump damage minus 25%, deployment radius reduced. So deployment won't hit beyond bridge and river. Any thoughts on that decision in terms of the nerf?
That's probably the biggest nerf in Clash Royale history. 25%. To put that into perspective, he jumps for 480 damage. And after this nerf, he's going to deal 360 jump damage. This means that he's not going to be able to kill like stuff like, I don't know, Ice Wizard, Witch, and Barbarians. You can't just jump and zap them to death anymore. Or you can't just jump and one-shot them. He's going to have to two-shot them now because of that huge number change. But that's just like micro interactions. If you look at other interactions like the Hog Rider, this is going to be huge. The Hog Rider is actually going to be able to connect to the tower now. He's going to get one hit on the tower.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's huge.
So, yeah, it is. And it's almost like, you know, given the usage rates of Mega Knight, it's almost like an indirect buff to Hog in a way, you know?
It is. We've seen the Hog drop off the map completely ever since the Mega Knight came out, because everyone is running the Mega Knight. So the Hog never gets through. You lose 4 elixir. They have a Mega Knight on the map, and they're going to counterattack really hard now.
Indeed. What do you think about the deployment won't hit beyond bridge and river? What does that mean? Any take on that?
The radius is just going to be a little bit smaller, but he's still going to be obnoxiously strong when he jumps. That spawn damage is so good. I think it's still going to be good with the reduction in the radius. Okay,
so even though it's the biggest nerf in the history of Clash Royale, you still think it'll be a viable card?
He'll still be viable, and he'll be a lot more manageable in the lower arenas. I feel like in competitive play, he might not be as strong as he could be anymore.
Okay. Inferno Dragon is switches between targets slower. Do you think that the nerf on Inferno Dragon, they don't give us any numbers like how slower, but do you think that nerf might be enough to see more Inferno Tower?
No.
No.
I mean, you can the current Inferno Dragon, you can still counter it with 3 skeletons, and it won't really deal much damage to your tower. But I think it was necessary. I like these really subtle nerfs that you don't really see immediately, but it does impact the overall picture of the game. I love those balance changes the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. And then the buffs, we have Valkyrie, Bandit, and Dark Prince. Anything pop out at you as far as like, wow, I'm surprised they buffed Valkyrie again and Dark Prince again, honestly. Well, how do you feel about those? Dark Prince OP, right? Am I right?
Oh yeah, the Dank Prince is always really good. I've got like it's always like a 0.1 faster attack speed. You don't really see it, you don't really feel it, but it is a 7% damage per second increase for both of those cards. So I think it's pretty cool, but you're not gonna like really see it.
Yeah, and Dark Prince gets a 5% HP buff as well. So I feel like Dark Prince, they're stuffing him down our throats at this point. Like, yeah, you're gonna use Dark Prince, and you're gonna love him, you know?
Yeah, like a 5% health boost. He's gonna survive like 1 extra stab from a skeleton or 1 spear from a spear goblin. It's like it'll help. It'll help.
Well, we saw what the 5% HP boost did for Lumberjack and Mini P.E.K.K.A, like making them, you know, definitely semi-viable in some decks. So I think that Dark Prince, between the hit speed and the hit points, he'll be solid. What about the Valkyrie? Do you see the Valkyrie possibly entering into the fray of competitive Clash Royale, or do you still not just see her as that type of card?
I don't think it's enough, but I do think that was a cool buff. So we'll have to see on that.
Agreed. Like, I can't wait for the day that Valkyrie is being used competitively. I used to say the same thing about the Prince, and now the Prince is definitely a viable, you know, tier 1 competitive card. So I think that Valkyrie, she can get there too.
The only time
Bandit.
The only time we've ever seen the Valkyrie in action was that really classic hog deck. What was it? It was
baby.
The trifecta. Yeah. So classic. That was the first time we saw Valkyrie and the only time we saw Valkyrie. I hope to see Valkyrie again.
Yeah, that was it, baby. It was the Musketeer Hog Valkyrie.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It was. Okay, so Bandit, the last card, you know, minimum dash range from 4 to 3.5. That sounds like a pretty decent buff for Bandit. What do you think?
So right now she can dash from between 4 and 6 tiles. After the buff, it's going to be 3.5 to 6 tiles. So she's going to have a bigger range. You know those times when you plant her down and you think she's going to dash, but she just ends up waddling and whacks that unit? I think that double dash is going to make a huge difference, both defensively and offensively. So it's going to be really cool. She's going to bring her back, especially after they fix the bug where she did dash closer before. This kind of compensates for that bug fix where she dropped off the map completely from that last update.
Indeed, and I felt like Bandit was like, she was doing so well in the meta, and then Royal Ghost came out and it was just like blah, like, because Royal Ghost can counter her so well and cost the same amount of elixir, and I feel like this is a good change for her. Also, the nerf to Knight, you know, I don't know if too many people are making the decision between Knight and Bandit, but still, just another 3 elixir option that you can hopefully use. I think that Bandit will probably be viable again in competitive play. I would expect to see her in some top decks. OJ, I wanted to ask you one last question before we let you go, man. I know you got hard editing hours ahead of you to get ready for that video.
I do.
But I did want to ask you about balance frequency. We did see this balance change really close to the previous balance changes. Now, Supercell has came out in the past and said that they don't feel like they should ever use balancing as a way just to kind of freshen up the game. They only want to balance when they feel that the game is in need. And I guess this actually speaks to that point where they obviously felt like that one bait deck got out of control, and then they added a few buffs to this balance change as well. What do you think about things? Should they be using balance updates more frequently, either in one of two methods? One method just to freshen up the game and to keep the meta moving, not seem as, you know, stale, some people might say. Or number 2, should they balance cards maybe individually, like just like maybe 2 balance changes as soon as they feel they need it?
I think that it's a big strain on millions and millions of players when they roll these maintenance breaks. So they try to minimize that by making it in one big go, but that also has like negative impacts for that. Balance changes, if you look at the all the balance changes, they've been coming out every 2 months, so I'm really surprised this one came out in half a month. This one came out fast just because of how much we've been seeing the Skeleton Barrel, the Inferno Dragon, and the Mega Knight. So this was really warranted. The last time I saw a balance change come out this fast was when there were the Elite Barbarians. That was really fast.
Wow, that was a while ago. Yeah, you're right though. That was a quick balance change. So do you agree with their kind of philosophy on that? The frequency?
That's very subjective. There's pros and cons to both, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just politically dodge it now.
I'll tell you my opinion. You can tell me if you think I'm right or wrong. So I think that I'd rather see more frequent balance updates and less frequent updates personally. And I know it's easy for me to say, and it's much harder to actually live by that, but if you're the developer. But I would rather see big feature updates maybe a couple times a year, and then the new cards just as they are, and just more frequent balance, maybe like once a month. Right now, like you said, they've been doing them every other month. I would like to see, even if they're not big, some of these balance changes, as we discussed, were pretty dramatic. Just maybe little haircuts here and there, little buffs here and there, kind of fine tuning the meta on a more frequent basis. And I think that maybe that would be the happy medium. And then I'd like to see like maybe only 1 or 2 big feature updates a year. And I know that's like easy for me to say. I'm just sitting at home, at my computer, being a keyboard warrior. But like that's kind of what my perfect world would look like in Clash Royale.
I think it'd be pretty cool to have updates like once a month kind of thing. There's also a lot of things you have to take into consideration, like not touching a card. It can nerf itself. Like if you look at the Valkyrie, she just dropped off the meta because of the new card introductions. If you look at the Electro Wizard, he went from like a 50% use rate down to 10%, and he wasn't even touched. So sometimes you don't need to nerf a card. It'll just nerf itself just because of, well, not literally nerf itself, but other cards will kind of replace its role.
Absolutely, yeah. And a good example again is that the Bandit and the Royal Ghost and other cards similar. So that's a really good point, OJ. Any final thoughts from you on this balance changes, new card, whatever?
No, I do hope that this balance change does fix the Skeleton Barrel Inferno Dragon bat meta.
That makes 2 of us, man.
Yeah, but they can balance it, but sometimes they balance it and it still stays. We'll see about that, but I'm pretty excited to see what the future is going to look like.
Indeed, me too, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Really, always enjoy chatting with you.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, dude. I'll see you soon. And guys, you should all make sure you check out OJ's channel if you haven't. If you're living under a rock, I'm sure you guys are already faithful subscribers. But check out OJ's channel. Make sure you stay tuned to his balance change video coming out later today. Thank you so much to OJ. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Check out his information in the description below. Guys, thank you. And as always, take care, guys.